Today is your birthday, but nobody knows. Because you did everything you could to make sure nobody would know. You turned off social media notifications, went to the office early, turned your phone face down. But you wait quietly. Will someone who truly sees me reach out despite all these barriers? Or will I be proven right? If a colleague asks, "Wasn't today your birthday?" when you walk into the office in the morning, what will you do? You will have to confirm it. They will smile and move on. Such fleeting moments create a quiet emptiness inside you, and most of the time you won't even notice it. You will simply carry a strange feeling inside you for the rest of the day. Birthdays carry a strange paradox. For the reason of the year, you may want to be invisible. But on that one day, whether you are aware of it or not, you expect things to be different. Most of the time, you don't even notice you have such an expectation, or you can't admit it yourself. But the moment you wake up, that feeling is there inside you. That feeling that the air should somehow feel different. A message, a phone call, someone paying you a compliment. You think you have no such expectations and you even say so out loud sometimes. But if the first thing you do when you wake up is check your phone, then somewhere there is an expectation. Unfortunately, sometimes nobody calls. You may be one of those people too. Someone who has learned to downplay their birthday, made a habit of saying, "I don't get attached to special days anyway," but who still checks their phone more than usual that morning. It doesn't even feel like a contradiction, more like both things happening at once. Yes, both of these feelings can exist at the same time, but a tension naturally forms between these two. Let's pause for a moment and think about how people begin to downplay their birthdays. Generally, this is not something that happens all at once. As a child, birthdays were perfect days. Everyone paid attention to you. You were at the center of everything that day. There was cake, candles, and gifts. Being at the center felt perfectly natural because you had no doubt that you deserved it. You thought this was normal for everyone. At that age, you didn't know the balance between expectation and disappointment. You just wanted, and wanting was enough. Then, one year, something changed. Perhaps a celebration you had looked forward to turned out to be flat, or didn't happen at all. Someone you loved dearly forgot to celebrate it, or they called, but that sincerity wasn't in their voice. After you hung up, you felt your enthusiasm deflate. You stored that moment, those feelings, somewhere in your mind. As a result of all of this, a judgment formed in your head. Expectation itself is a risk. If these expectations are not met, you will feel those same feelings again. The brain records pain and looks for ways to avoid experiencing it again. We could call this emotional defense. Or, put differently, you begin to inoculate yourself against disappointment from the very start, just like getting vaccinated. You give yourself a small dose of disappointment in advance so that when the bigger one comes, it doesn't destroy you. You say, "I wasn't expecting anything anyway." This is somewhat true because you have genuinely worked at not expecting anything. That effort in itself is a kind of labor. An unseen, unacknowledged kind of labor whose exhaustion is never really counted. But it's also necessary to be aware of the following distinction. There is a very fine line between not expecting and not needing. Confusing these two can lead a person to lose themselves. Because needs don't really disappear, they just show up somewhere else. Sometimes that need manifests itself in other forms. On that day, you become a little more impatient with everything, or on the contrary, a little more indifferent to everything. As if the world isn't going to care about you, you won't care about the world either. Even if we don't consciously make such a decision, our brain works this way. Let's make this more concrete. Think of a friend. You probably have someone like this. Before their birthday, they state they didn't want to be celebrated. You heard this and didn't organize anything. The birthday passed, but that friend was a little quiet that week. They weren't really present, replying to messages late, not talking about plans. Did you do something wrong? Most likely not, but your friend became trapped behind the barrier they had placed themselves. In that silence, they may even have been thinking, "See, I was right. They weren't going to celebrate me anyway." Yet you had wanted to celebrate while they had specially stated they didn't want it. So, a person can want to be celebrated and not celebrated at the same time. This is actually not an inconsistency, but rather the expression of a fear. In the end, a vicious cycle begins to form. You close off to protect yourself. When you close off, you are not seen, and when you are not seen, you claim that you were never going to be seen anyway. The cycle continuously feeds itself, and each time it hardens a little more. Because each passing year you trim that expectation a little more. While at 15 you would wait hoping they might throw a surprise. At 25 you say even a message would be enough. At 30 you don't even wait for a message, and you see this as maturity. The sadness on special days is not an ordinary sadness. It's not the same as that familiar emptiness that comes in the middle of the week. Birthdays are like a social contract. Culture tells you today you are special. Films tell it this way, songs say it this way, social media shows it this way. Even if you are not aware of it, you load meaning onto this, even if you don't want to, because you have been breathing that narrative for years. When you try to eliminate this concept from your mind, you are not just experiencing that day's disappointment. You are confronting the accumulated weight of that entire cycle formed by years of wanting to be seen while pretending not to want it. The sum total of expectations pruned back over years. That's a heavy thing to carry. Nobody can fully articulate it because it's hard to admit. Saying nobody called me on my birthday and I was upset makes a person feel like a small child. There is also this angle to consider. You feel like you have to appear happy on that day. Because a birthday is supposed to be a day to be happy. If you seem sad, you feel as though you owe people an explanation. Sometimes explaining it can feel even more exhausting than the sadness itself. So, smiling feels easier. You join the cake cutting ritual at the office. You say thank you. On the way home, in the car, or on the metro. In that silence, you can be alone with your own thoughts. Then there is also the quality of the incoming messages to consider. A flood of congratulatory messages comes in. You look at all of them, but you can't find quite what you were expecting. Because most of those messages have very little to do with you. Actually, messages sent out of obligation. Perhaps things sent after seeing an app reminder or a social media notification. There is no real connection between you and that message. Sometimes you realize that one of the people congratulating you didn't remember something important you said last month. When these two things sit side by side, those words happy birthday are hollowed out. Sometimes you can see no difference between receiving dozens of messages and receiving none at all. A pile of messages, many in number but empty inside, a collection of gestures that carry no real feeling. There is a great difference between a message sent just to have sent it and a message sent willingly. In the first, you simply send the message and tick off one more item on your to-do list. In the second, you truly think of a person, send them a heartfelt message with genuine wishes for them inside you. That's why sometimes a very short but sincere message is worth far more than a long one sent early. Some people organize this special day entirely for themselves, leaving everyone else out. They make plans, make a reservation somewhere, buy themselves something. They celebrate their own existence and can even enjoy it. But beneath this too, there may in fact be another feeling. The feeling of doing it yourself because you cannot wait for someone else to do it. You sit alone in a cafe, order something nice, look out the window. On the surface, it's actually quite beautiful. Is the aim to be free or to fill this void by thinking that nobody was going to do it anyway? Most of the time we don't think about this, we do it automatically. But the likelihood that this thought lies beneath it all is quite strong. Then there are people who check their phone less. They tend to look at it less frequently than normal. They think not knowing may be better than knowing. They don't want to see who called and who didn't. In a way, it's an acceptance of loneliness. As a result of this, you may sometimes be blocking or delaying something beautiful. Perhaps someone was planning to surprise you. Perhaps someone was going to call. Perhaps a friend thought of you that day, didn't know what to do, and seeing that you weren't responding to the messages, assumed you didn't want anything. It can become one of those silent lost moments where both sides are actually waiting for the other. So, why do birthdays feel so important? From an objective point of view, it's a little strange. You grew a year older, the number changed, the world kept turning. But why is the need to be loved so intense on the day that number changes? Actually, that day is simply a symbol. The noticing and acceptance of your existence. In many ways, these are the foundations of feeling loved. And being loved is one of the signs of being safe. A birthday is the moment when the sentence, "because you came into this world, something is different," is spoken once a year. Wanting to hear this sentence is not a weakness. On the contrary, it's a deeply human need. As a baby, you needed others to survive. Even when you grow up, this need doesn't disappear entirely. It simply begins to speak in a quieter language. So, let me ask you this. Do you remember other people's birthdays? Do you call them? Do you feel something when you send that message? Sometimes we are not fair to ourselves. We struggle to want for ourselves what we give to others. For a friend's birthday, you think hours in advance about what to write. You choose your words. After sending it, you wonder whether they will like it. But when your own birthday comes, you brush it aside, thinking others wouldn't think this way about you. Wanting can feel like selfishness. Wanting to be seen feels like exposing a weakness. Yet, You too are someone who is waiting for that message, that call, who wants to hear those words, "I'm thinking of you." These are, in fact, some of the most beautiful feelings that make us human and bring color to our lives. Perhaps not caring about birthdays is not escaping, but a kind of preparation. Preparation for the possibility of being disappointed, like taking your umbrella with you. It may not rain, but if it does, you won't get wet. A perfectly understandable reflex. But at some point, one might need to ask, is this umbrella protecting me, or am I holding it so tightly that even when the sun comes out, I don't notice? Could this protective reflex also be costing us a great deal of potential? Could we be destroying while stealing seed from the joyful times to be spent together, the sweet surprises our friends might have planned? Are we really aware that, at the cost of protecting ourselves from the negatives, we are also giving up the positives? Is depriving ourselves and missing out online, even being willing to seem grumpy for this cause, really what we want? Another birthday passes and you think to yourself, good thing nobody made a big deal out of this pointless day. Perhaps you truly believe this. Perhaps this sentence has been repeated so many times that you no longer ever question its truth. But deep down, a sense of deprivation flickers like a spark. These two feelings can live side by side for years, without silencing each other, without validating each other, without one dominating the other. These feelings are hard to put into words. The feelings of someone who is not sure whether they deserve to be seen. This may be what lies most beneath that weight on birthdays. Not so much the expectation, but that old, deep-rooted question about whether you deserve it. Before asking yourself that question, you need to notice this. The fact that these thoughts pass through your mind is proof that it exists. Pruned back, shrunk, belittled over the years, but still there. The real issue isn't whether anyone sees you or not. It's when you stopped being visible. The day you began saying, "Forget it, I'm not expecting anything anyway." The day you closed that door from the inside. A person doesn't run from their birthday, they run from disappointment. But one thing is important to recognize. While protecting ourselves, we are also allowing something to be taken away from ourselves. Maybe this year you try something different. Not a big celebration or expectation. Just not closing the door completely. Allowing for the possibility that someone might be able to come in. Letting go of the need to direct people and allowing life to unfold on its own.